It is. It's that magical work-life balance everyone's always talking about. And today we're going to try to figure out how to actually make it happen. We're going to use a study from Money Nerd.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, they analyzed 25 cities around the world, looking at which ones do the best job of offering, the best of both worlds. Good money and good life outside of work. And we have the perfect person to help us break it all down.
Well, I don't know about perfect, but I'll do my best.
Of course. So
Let's
the top spot. Are you ready for this?
hit me with it.
Copenhagen.
Interesting.
They got an 8.6 out of 10 for work-life balance.
Wow.
Yeah. And the average salary is over $44,000.
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
I mean, it makes you wonder what they're doing differently over there.
Right.
Like, what's their secret? Well, one thing that stands out about Copenhagen is Denmark's social safety net. That plays a big role, for example. They have really generous parental leave policies. And childcare is really affordable, so that takes a lot of stress off of working parents.
So it's not just about, having free time. It's about having the support to actually enjoy that time without, constantly stressing about stuff.
Exactly. And on top of that, Denmark's culture really emphasizes family time and leisure.
Heard that.
They've really figured out how to make work just one part of life.
Not the only part.
Right.
So they're not letting it, completely take over. It makes you wonder if there's something in the water over there. Or maybe in those delicious Danish pastries.
Maybe.
But Copenhagen's not the only city doing well. Amsterdam is right behind them at number 2. The average salary is a tiny bit lower.
Okay.
But the cost of living is way lower, too.
I mean, it's a big deal.
It is.
A bigger salary isn't always better if everything costs twice as much.
Yeah. What's the point of making bank if you can barely afford a decent place to live? Or, a weekend trip somewhere.
Exactly. You have to look at the big picture.
The whole picture?
Not just, your paycheck says.
Like, how much does housing cost? Transportation, food, even your daily coffee.
All of it.
Yep. Okay, so speaking of the big picture.
What is it?
New York City comes in at number 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's got the highest average salary on the list.
How high are we talking?
Over $71,000.
Wow,
But
there's a but.
there's always a but. Their work-life balance score is much lower.
Makes sense.
Yeah, New York is all about that hustle.
You go hard or you go home.
That's the energy. But it makes you wonder, does everyone in New York live like that? Always on? Or are there, people finding some peace and quiet amidst the chaos?
Oh, I'm sure there are. New York is so diverse.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In terms of industries and the people who live there. You'll find companies with flexible work policies, people who, really prioritize balance, and neighborhoods where things are a bit slower.
Okay, that makes sense. That's good to hear. And get this, the study also mentioned that the U.S. overall has been getting better in terms of work-life balance. Yeah. The OECD, that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. They've been tracking this.
Okay.
And their data shows that Americans are working fewer hours on average and having a little bit more leisure time. Seems like maybe our priorities are shifting a bit.
Maybe we're starting to realize that well-being is actually important.
I think so. And I bet technology is playing a role too, right? Like, remote work is getting so much more common, giving people more flexibility.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But it's not just technology.
Yeah.
People are demanding more balance.
Yeah.
Workers are speaking up.
They're saying what they need.
And some companies are starting to listen.
It's a good sign.
It's a slow change.
It is.
But it's happening.
So it's not just about individual choices. It's about a bigger shift.
A collective push for a better way of working.
Exactly.
And smart companies are realizing that. Happier, less stressed employees are more productive.
Yeah, they actually do better work.
It's good for everyone.
Makes sense. Okay, so now let's look at the other end of the spectrum. The cities that aren't doing so well.
Right.
The Money Nerd study highlighted Beijing, Lisbon, and Budapest.
Okay.
They're dealing with low salaries and low work-life balance scores.
Oh, wow.
A double whammy.
That's rough.
It is.
Why do you think that is?
It's tough to say for sure.
Yeah.
It's complicated. It could be economic factors. Maybe those cities are going through transitions where there's a ton of competition for jobs and resources are limited.
That makes sense.
Or maybe it's cultural.
Oh, yeah. Culture plays a big role.
Maybe in those cultures, working long hours is seen as,
kind of dedication.
Yeah, like you're really committed.
Right.
So basically, the struggle for work-life balance, it's not just a personal thing. It's tied to all these bigger factors.
Context.
Yeah, the world around us.
Exactly.
Like where we live, what's happening in the economy, even the history of a place.
All of it comes into play.
It's fascinating. It's not realizing that work-life balance isn't just about willpower. It's about understanding these big forces that are kind of,
Shaping our lives.
yeah, shaping our lives.
I agree.
It's not just about choosing to leave work early.
It's bigger than that.
Yeah. It's about whether your company even allows that.
Yeah.
Whether you can afford childcare so you can actually leave, and whether people think it's okay to do that.
It's a whole system.
It is. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into how different cities attract certain professions.
Right.
Money Nerd found that Amsterdam is like a magnet for business, tech, and marketing people.
Interesting.
Right. And Copenhagen was tops for sales and finance, while London was the place to be for lawyers.
Wonder why that is.
Why do you think certain professions are drawn to specific cities?
I'm sure it's a mix of things. Some cities just become known for being really good in certain fields,
Okay.
so they naturally attract the best people in those areas.
Makes sense.
And then you get a cycle where the top people want to be where all the action is,
Yeah.
which makes the city even stronger.
Yeah. Right. So, if you're a tech entrepreneur just starting out, Amsterdam's startup scene would be really appealing, while a lawyer who's ambitious might be drawn to London's history and global reach.
Exactly.
But it's not just about career goals.
Right. No, so.
Lifestyle plays a big part, too.
For sure.
The vibe of a city, the culture, even how easy it is to get around, all that stuff.
It all factors in.
So maybe a high salary gets your attention.
Good start.
But it's the whole package that really matters.
The opportunities,
Yeah,
the lifestyle, the feeling that you're in the right place.
exactly. We'll be back in just a minute to keep exploring this, and we'll talk about how we can use these global insights in our own lives, no matter where we live or what we do.
All right, so we've been all over the world talking about these amazing cities and how they approach work-life balance. But now let's bring it back home. What are you thinking about all this?
Yeah. What's resonating with you? Like, what stands out? What are you finding surprising? Maybe it's Copenhagen and how they think about balance. Or maybe it's realizing that a big salary isn't everything.
Or maybe it's just making you think about your own work-life balance.
Exactly. Like, am I happy with how things are?
Right. Yeah.
Could I be doing something differently?
It's always good to check in with yourself.
It is. Okay, but before we get too deep into that, let's go back to the Money Nerd study for a second.
Okay.
Remember how Amsterdam was a hub for business, tech, and marketing?
Yeah. It's interesting.
It is. When you think about it, it makes total sense. Amsterdam has a huge startup scene.
Oh, yeah.
A real culture of innovation.
And they're known for being progressive and international.
Exactly. So it's not just about the jobs being there. It's about the whole
And
environment.
the ecosystem
Yeah.
for people in those fields. Amsterdam is a great mix of challenge and fulfillment.
Like, you can be ambitious, but also have a life.
Right.
And they value creative thinking.
Which is key in those industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how about Copenhagen? They were the top city for sales and finance.
Yeah. I wonder why that is.
What do you think is going on there?
Well, Copenhagen is known for being economically stable and having a good business environment.
Okay.
Plus, they have a lot of big financial institutions there.
So naturally, people in those fields are going to be drawn there.
It makes sense.
It's a place where you can build a really good career without, giving up your whole life.
Yeah.
You can have it all. Kind of like having your cake and eating it too.
In a way, yeah. And we can't forget about the culture. Denmark really emphasizes work-life balance.
Yeah, in all
So
sectors.
it creates an environment where people can really thrive.
Both at work and outside of work.
Exactly.
Now for lawyers. London was the top choice.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. It's been a global center for law and finance for so long.
Or centuries.
It's got these huge law firms and financial institutions
Yeah.
that are known all over the world.
So naturally, it attracts top lawyers.
It's like a magnet for them.
Yeah, they want to be where the action is.
Exactly. But it's not just about fancy law firms.
No, it's not.
London also has a lot to offer in terms of culture and social life.
There's always something going on.
There is. And it's got this amazing sense of history.
You can feel it everywhere you go.
It's a city that really balances the professional and the personal.
It does.
It seems like there's a city out there for everyone, a place where your career and your lifestyle can really come together.
That's the dream.
It
Finding
is
that sweet spot.
where you can do what you love and still have a life.
Without burning yourself out.
Exactly. But I know what you're thinking. Not everyone can just pick up and move to a new city.
That's true.
It's not always that easy.
But even if you're staying put, there are still things we can learn from these cities.
Totally.
We can take inspiration from their approaches,
and find ways to apply them to our own lives.
no matter where we are or what we do.
So what are some of the key takeaways here?
Well, one of the biggest things is that work-life balance needs to be a priority.
No matter what.
It's about making
Conscious choices.
that support your well-being.
And making sure your actions match your values.
Exactly.
It's about realizing that work is just one part of life.
Not the whole thing.
Right.
And it's about speaking up for yourself
At work.
and in your personal life,
Setting boundaries.
letting people know what you need.
And making time for things that make you happy. Things that recharge you.
Exactly.
That all sounds great. But I bet some people are thinking, okay, but how do I actually do that?
Yeah, I get it.
It can feel overwhelming. Just thinking about work-life balance in general.
It's a big concept.
It is.
I think a good place to start is figuring out what work-life balance actually means to you.
Okay.
It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
What makes one person happy might stress someone else out.
Totally.
It's like finding the right recipe. You have to adjust the ingredients to fit your taste.
I like that.
So do you like having clear boundaries between work and life? Or do you prefer things to be more flexible? There's no right answer. It's about what works for you.
Understanding yourself.
Exactly. Once you know what you want, then you can start setting boundaries.
Boundaries, like those invisible fences.
Kind of, yeah.
They keep things in order.
They do. It might mean turning off work notifications after a certain time, or setting aside time for your hobbies, or just learning to say no more often.
So it's about taking back control.
Of your time and your energy.
Making choices about how you spend them.
Exactly. And it's not just about work. It's about how you spend your free time, too.
Oh, that's a good
Are
point.
you always on social media? Do you feel like you have to be productive all the time?
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
It is. But all that stimulation can actually make it harder to relax.
So you're not really recharging.
Right. So make sure you're doing things that truly nourish you.
Like what kind of things?
Maybe it's reading a book, or going for a walk in nature, or just spending quality time with people you care about.
Without checking your phone every 5 seconds.
Exactly.
Just being present.
Yeah. And remember, finding balance is a journey.
Not a destination.
It takes time. And you'll probably have to adjust things along the way.
What works for you today might not work for you tomorrow.
It's okay.
Life is always changing.
It is.
We have to be flexible.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to stumble. Just keep learning and keep trying to find that balance.
Yeah. It's a process.
It is.
You know, it's funny. We started by talking about these amazing cities.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to creating our own little Copenhagen, no matter where we are.
Finding that sense of well-being and fulfillment.
Exactly. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this part of our deep dive. But stay tuned, because in the next part, we're going to get really practical.
We'll talk about specific strategies.
And actionable tips for actually improving your work-life balance.
We'll give you the tools to create a life that feels good.
A life that's sustainable and truly yours.
We'll see you soon.